All right, so good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. Just want to welcome everybody here. My name is Justin Carter. I'm a project associate with the Center for Rural Affairs, and I'm joining you from my home tonight on the traditional homelands of the Omaha people in what is today known as Omaha, Nebraska. So if you are unfamiliar with the Center for Rural Affairs, we're a private nonprofit. We're located in the little town of Lyons, Nebraska, and we do a wide variety of work with small towns. So everything from small business development, rural policy work, to grassroots food and farm work. And we have employees and food systems projects in the Omaha Nation communities and the communities of Santee Sioux Nation as well. So I'd like to welcome you all to our next session in our series, Models of Native Cooperative Ownership. This has been a terrific series. We've had so many enlightening conversations, and tonight we want to welcome in, the Fond du Lac band, to talk about their cooperative work around food and farming. And we would also like to welcome in our facilitator, Pamela Standing, who's been joining us through all of these. So thankful to have her. So welcome, Pamela, and I will let you take it away.
Osio Nigada. Hello, everyone. We're really happy to have you here tonight, and we're so excited to hear about the project at Fond du Lac. This is a beautiful example of a tribal nation and its citizens working together and creating something that is securing food in their community. And it's a result out of their food sovereignty survey, the work that they've been doing. And we're really honored to have Jamie Adams here tonight. She's in the planning department for the Fond du Lac Band and is in economic development. And she always is doing such good work for the community members and is really focused on how can they help their community. So we're really honored to have them here tonight, and welcome you, Jamie.
Well, miigwech, Pamela. I also want to add, we have Erika Legros, who is another partner in our project here. She'll be co-presenting with me. And I do want to shout out to Nikki Crow, who's also a partner and joining us as some moral support. Might answer some questions if we need her to. So bonjour, my name is Jamie Adams. As Pamela said, I am an economic development planner for the Fond du Lac Band. I'm a Fond du Lac descendant, and I have been working with Fond du Lac for almost 8 years now. We have a PowerPoint that we're going to go through, so I will share my screen and get that set up. And okay, perfect. All right. Oh, it looks like. All right, let me start this from the beginning here. Okay, I'm going to start out the presentation, and then Erika is going to finish up on the back end. So when Pamela reached out to me about the presentation, one of the things she said specifically was curious about our project and kind of how we got it started and how we worked with our tribal government, because the majority, our program works with a lot of our tribal partners throughout our entire government. And she had kind of mentioned that some other programs that were more grassroots had kind of a difficult time maybe merging with their tribal government. So I will start out here. All right. So Fond du Lac, we have been doing different gardening programs for quite some time. Our Gitigaan program is a program where we provide seeds and plants In some cases, we provide tilling and we provide weeks of gardening classes. And that's been going on for over 25 years. Our 13 Moons and Bamaji Idawin program have been offering up education for over 10 years, and Erika will talk more in depth about those programs coming up. Our resource management division has been very active in different gardening projects and demonstrations. And our tribal college extension, our environmental institute, has been a major partner and player in a lot of the things that we work on. Other projects that we've had around Fond du Lac, our K-12 Ojibwe school had a Journey Garden program, which was a youth enrichment program in the summertime that focused around building health careers, physically working in the garden, doing some cooking, and then also had like a social enterprise aspect to it. Our human services division have always been very helpful, especially our statewide health improvement program and our SNAP Ed educators. And then we have worked with the University of Minnesota Extension and Carleton County Extension as well to do different gardening programs throughout the years. So when we started to look at food sovereignty, we kind of realized like we had been doing a lot of these things, and even, you know, beyond that, you know, a lot of the traditional activities that we do, but it really wasn't coined as food sovereignty until like 2015, 2016. So in 2016 was our first strategic planning session. And I'm going to talk a lot about the planning aspect of this, because that's really how we formed our food sovereignty project and got momentum. We worked with a consultant, John Hendricks, and it was with our 13 Moons program that initiated that through a grant they received from the First Nations Development Institute. That first planning session was, I actually wasn't able to attend it, but it was like a 12-month plan. Nikki was there. She was a 13 Moons coordinator at the time and had organized it. And you can see some of the results here. Was talking more about identifying the projects and activities that are taking place and kind of doing that like assessment of what we have happening right now, and developing that vision and statement for our local foods. So that happened in 2016, where we really started to kind of rally around coming together and working on a common goal. The next year, we were ready to update our plan again already. And so momentum was growing and building. And at that 2017 update was really that conversation about like, who should be at the room? Who do you need to get involved? And so we had involvement from tribal leadership, planning division, our community college, resource management, human services, our community centers, the Intertribal Agricultural Council, Natural Resource Conservation Services, NRCS, and community members. And one of the things when we started to meet and talk about our, I'm not going to go there yet. So we really talked about like getting the players at the table. Also in 2017, so we did our strategic planning process, but we also, our tribe purchased a 36-acre farm, which is now Gitigaan, the place of the gardens, where our producer training program happens. But that was purchased in 2017. It was an existing farm, so it had a house and outbuildings, but it had previously been set up for like grazing cattle many years ago. So there wasn't like a a deer fence, and there was not well or irrigation in the fields. Kind of just getting into things, we had some equipment, but the equipment we had was mainly for home gardens to just till up garden plots for our individual, for our community members at their homes. Okay, so when we were updating then it came time after the purchase of that property to update our plan again. And that's when we started to do more of that asset mapping and looking at who we want, who we need to have involved and talk with. And so I think when you're thinking about your community and, you know, depending on where you're at in your process, thinking about, you know, what players do we need to have at the table to help move us forward. And so they talked about the food outlets that are around the reservation, anywhere from like the casino restaurants to our elderly nutrition program and our school kitchens, and then other types of food outlets such as hunting and gathering and racing. So we, you know, really took a look at what we had going on to do that asset mapping. The other part of the asset mapping was looking at agricultural food producers and who we have in the community who are doing those things, or what types of foods are being processed and sold. So then we also looked at our nutrition education programs, and then talking about people who work with like the food policy and regulation. So at Fond du Lac, we have our own like food safety manager, and that was someone that we have been getting involved, especially as we move forward with some of the infrastructure projects that we have. So we had been meeting as a food sovereignty initiative as a group for kind of before 2016, kind of an unofficial group getting together, kind of brainstorming like, what are you guys working on? How can we partner? But it wasn't until the 2017 plan that we kind of came up with these activities of more formalizing our food sovereignty committee and meeting on a regular basis to kind of help push these goals and visions forward. So we're getting closer to the now. 2018 to 2019 was a lot of checking things off the list. We had a great list of activities to work on and a place to go. So we worked on getting things, you know, just checked off that list. And it actually, what we found kind of happened naturally. Every once in a while we'd go back and look at this and we're like, oh my gosh, like we're doing it. And it was very exciting to see that progress. So a lot of that included grant writing to make a lot of these programs happen. 2019 was the first year that we grew food out at the farm, out at Gitigaan, and along with that, checking things off the list led to our next strategic plan update. And that update really looked at kind of our strengths and weaknesses as a group, and also looking at the strengths and weaknesses of our local food system. So we had a better idea of what kind of this path on our food sovereignty projects, like what that was and where things were going. So we really took a look at what are our strengths, what are our weaknesses, what do we need to focus on moving forward. And a lot of that was just around the increased knowledge and access to local foods. We created this chart that might be helpful as you guys are thinking about your own projects and the partners that you need. You know, in the middle, we have our food sovereignty committee, and then kind of around that, our internal partners, our like external tribal partners and non-tribal partners. We have, I want to kind of mention, we've been so fortunate to work with our farm mentor. I think Erika will probably talk about that aspect in a little bit. But we've also worked with Center for Economic Development, or Small Business Development Center, on bringing business training to producers in our program and help create business plans. Okay, so getting to kind of the now. 2020 was a really interesting year as COVID hit and we had the lockdowns. We had grant funding that said we were going to train producers and grow food and, you know, provide this service to the community. And everything was shut down. So we put into place kind of a COVID action plan on how we're going to keep all of our producers safe and our employees safe. Luckily, the activities that we had to do were all outside, so that added another level of kind of that safety aspect. And I think that our producer training program and the activities that we were doing, those were like kind of the only activities that Fond du Lac was doing in the early summer of 2020 because everything else was still very shut down and socially distant. About halfway through the summer, towards the end of the summer, we were notified that we had funding that needed to be used by the end of the year. This, I would say for us, was a huge turning point. And with that, because of all the planning we had done to lead up to it and the visioning, like we knew where we had wanted to go. We knew that we needed a commercial kitchen because it had come up time and time again. We knew that we wanted a root cellar and places to store our food. And so from, I think it was August, early September, late August, early September 2020, we pretty much planned and designed our whole commercial kitchen, root cellar, seed storage, meat processing, that whole building that we made in just a few weeks, and the ground broke mid-September to get things going. That's kind of unheard of in the aspect of project development, and we kind of rallied together to get things done. So we were also able to install the deer fencing that we needed and a well and irrigation that we desperately needed because 2019 and 2020 were hard years for growing. We had to physically bring the water in. Some of the other things that we did to kind of increase our infrastructure and increase the offerings, we, through Administration for Native Americans grant, were able to install a growing dome for season extension. One of our other communities, we added an outbuilding there for future expansion, and we're also able to acquire tractors and implements that would make weed control, harvesting, planting much easier. So that was just a huge turning point in our programming. When we talk about the future and what's going on next, so this spring, this summer, we once again took a look at our strategic plan for food sovereignty and looked at what it would look like to really create an agricultural division. Because as we mentioned, we have so many players from all aspects of our tribal government coming together. It's been great to have that partnership and that community, but we haven't really had like a point of contact or a main place to go. So took a look at, what would it look like to create an agricultural division to help manage the infrastructure and the programming that we've created. And so we have our strategic plan around more of an agricultural division and that moving forward. We have a division director position that has been created. It has not been filled yet. It's in the process. And just some of the activities we're looking forward to moving forward are different educational activities, community engagement. We've been having a great time utilizing the space this summer and having tours and events and in-person classes outside. And we're hoping to look at how to kind of expand into the 3 districts. So Fond du Lac, our community, has 3 main districts, kind of all separated by about 20 miles, give or take. And so we're really excited to look at, what makes sense for each community and how can we kind of expand some of that programming. Supporting our food producers. In Erika's presentation coming up, she'll talk more about that, but it's been so fun just seeing the work that our producers have been doing and to see them excel and get to either make value-added products with their with what they're growing or just bringing their food to the markets. Another thing that we are working on is an agricultural resource management plan that is in the works and will be another asset as we continue to grow. And then always, growing food and saving seeds and just, creating that, that ownership really. So the last thing that I wanted to talk with before I hand it over to Erika, just some of the key takeaways that we've learned and something to think about as you guys are kind of moving forward is update tribal leadership regularly. So whether you are within the tribal government already for your programming, or if you are more of a grassroots community organized project, make sure that your stakeholders are being updated. That's something that we always can do better on, but people want to know, people are excited and they want to know what's going on. And so keeping your stakeholders in the loop is really important. Similar to the communication and sharing your successes, we have a social media marketing kind of contractor that we're working with right now through a grant that we have received through NRCS. It's promoting field to market activities. And so we were able to put in some money under that grant to have someone come in and help us kind of do more of that promotion. And it's been very exciting to have that extra help. The seeking long-term funding. The work that we do is grant funded right now. Part of our 2021 plan was really taking a look at how can we support or how can we get more buy-in to have that long-term funding? Because we know that if you are a grant funded program and the funding runs out, sometimes it's really hard to make that continue. So that's something that we are working on, is just that long-term sustainable funding. Be ready for the unexpected. As you know, all of us probably experienced that throughout this last year. going through a pandemic. But one of our goals even before COVID hit was having some plans in place so that if we did get random funding, we were able to take it and roll with it. And that has actually, it's been very, very beneficial. And that's pivot and be flexible. So under the Fond du Lac band, we have a page for our planning division and there are plan documents there. I will put it in the chat, but we have our agricultural division strategic plan. We have a comprehensive plan, our reservation strategic plan, and our community economic development strategy. All of those programs talk about food sovereignty and how important they are. And I just think that's so important as you're looking at your programming and getting community support and buy-in. It's listed as priorities from community members to work on those types of activities too. So it's really nice to have that buy-in and know that you're kind of moving in the right direction. All right, so I'm gonna move it over to Erika now and let her talk a little bit more about the types of programming that we offer.
Thank you, Jamie.
And Erika, just tell me when you want the next slide.
Okay, sounds good.
And I'll
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. My name is Erika Legros, and I'm a gardener, and I work at community outreach here in Fond du Lac and for the tribal college. Next, please. Next. Oh yeah, thank you.
Is it good? Okay.
Yes, I will be talking about the producer training program. Before talk more about the producer training program, I want to mention the 13 months program. It's part of how this producer training program is started, and so the 13 months is a tribal extension program and increase awareness about natural resource, provide new opportunities, and increase knowledge of Ojibwe culture. And next slide, please. Next. And also mention the Bimaji Diwin Ojibwe Garden program. This is a demonstration in community garden. Is in the Ojibwe school in one of the districts, and it's a demonstration garden. I like to mention because a lot of the experience and knowledge that been very helpful now to work with the producer training program comes from this garden. This is a demonstration garden, so the produce that we grow here go to the community members or other programs here in Fond du Lac. We grow native plants and other healthy foods. We have native medicines, and we also have we have other plants like more common like weeds that we also use like a food. We grow a little bit of everything, and also it's a place where community members can come and ask questions about gardening, and also it's a place now that helps to to meet people regarding the producer training program when we have some plants giveaway or some materials giveaway too. Next. Okay, the Bimaji Idiwin Producer Training Program. Why this program is for people who want to start growing their own food. if it's for a business or just to keep the produce for their families, the vegetables. It's called a producer training program and no farming training program, because it's an opportunity for everyone, not just to grow vegetables, but also including the tree rice, gathering, fishing, hunting, and yeah. This program is modeled after Big River Farms farmer training program. We have a farm mentor program. His name is John Fisher Merritt. He is organic farmer at the food farm for more than 30 years. He's been our farm mentor this last 3 years. The producer training program started in 2019. The first year we were planning for 4 or 5 participants, and we had 7 participants. The second year we have 20 participants, and the third year, this 2021, we have 34 participants. Not all the participants have a plot at the farm at Gitigaan. Some of the producers participants choose to have just a garden, a small garden at home. And the participants who had a plot at the garden, they have 1/16 of an acre, 1/8 of an acre, or 1/4 of an acre. This year we have 19 families at Gitigaan growing their own foods, and 2 different programs, the Vimaji Wing Garden and also the Gitigaan program. Last year, because our program is modeled after Big River Farms farm training program, they also share the COVID operations plan with us. So we just did a little modifications, and we have a plan in the farm. And one of the things that we have to do at the farm is like all the participants, they have to have their own hand wash stations, and we have to have soap and like have their own tools, a lot of different things that we have to do different the second year. We also, so the program is around 10 months. We have the applications in December. and January, we go through all the applications with the committee. In February, the first week of February, we have our first meeting. It's an orientation meeting. The third week of February, we have business. We have a class or workshop. Last year and this year, we only had a class, but the first year we have a workshop about business plan. So everybody can start a business plan in case they decide to do a business during the growing season. And our classes, we coordinate with the Gitigaan program that Jamie mentioned before. That's been going for more than 20 years. So we coordinate some of the classes the same days, so not just the program participants can benefit from the classes, but all the community who attends to the classes from March to May. Sometimes we have some classes that are more focused in farming, so we have the classes in Thursdays in the spring. We also have some classes like seed starting, seed saving, soil health, pest and disease management, and other different classes. The program provides the classes, the training, materials, supplies, books, a binder with a lot of information, with a schedule or how they can plan or record the produce, everything that will be needed to the through the season. And then also is at least the participants can go to at least one ag conference. So some of the participants been to the Minnesota Organic Conference, to the Emerging Farming Conference. Moses, one of the biggest organic conference in the country. There are also Indigenous Farming Conference or Intertribal Food Summit. And then and also the program helps to connect people with other farmers, with resources, and other resources that are out there, so they can meet their goals. A lot of participants, they just want to learn how to grow food. And then in the first year, we have only a couple participants selling produce. Next, please. Last year, we have the same amount of participants. Next. Thank you. This year, we have more participants selling produce. In some of the photos, we have one of our classes was working in the walk behind, because in the farm, we do the stuff, we do a lot of the taking care of the soil, we do cover crops, and we prepare the soil for the participants. With the help of our mentor, we also do a soil test, so we check the nutrients of the soil and what we should be doing to have the plots ready for the participants every year. And then now with the small walk behind tractor, it's kind of, some of the participants can use that too. We have a lot of elders that we also help, a lot of elders that are participants. Next, please. In some of the photos, one photo in the corner, the first one in the left, is one of the participants the first year. The second photo to the right, it was last year from another participant. And the corner in the right is another participant, 2021. In the bottom, we have Deb Smith, the first year of the program. She was selling her produce in Red Lake. And this year, Rouse and Sue are the new people living a lot in farmers market. And the three photos in the bottom, the program also includes tours. Last year we didn't do any tour, and this year also we cancel our tours. But the first year we went to 3 different tours. We visit the food farm, we visit the Main Street farm, and then we visit another small farm. So we're trying to do at least 2 or 3 tours so people can see what other farmers are doing and learn or get inspired, or see how things are growing, especially in this area. Our season here in Fond du Lac is very short. We can have frost the first week of June, and we can have, last year we have a frost the first week of September. So it's very, very short season. Is something that we just trying to adapt. And then also the first year we didn't have any water at the farm. So kind of last moment, we got a big tank for water, and we have a few buckets. The second year we have a lot of buckets, and we have a bigger tank with water, but that was not enough. It was really hard work for everyone in this third year with the well and the irrigation system is making everything easier. We just connect hoses so people have access. This year we have a big drought in Minnesota, so we were watering a lot. We have a lot of challenge. Like one was the water, the weather this year, and also the first and the second year it was no fence. Until this year we have a foot long big fence around the 4 acres. So the the farm is where the growing vegetables are 4 acres. We have 3 acres just for plots and 1 acre that we just have cover crops this year, so we can start doing rotations. So that way, because by the time we want to plant some cover crops here, it's kind of late. Then we get a frost and the cover crops not have enough time to grow. So we did grow cover crops this year in one of the acres, and then we're gonna start doing rotation. So that way we take care of the soil too, not just take from the soil. And okay, I think, and also I just gonna mention about this year. So the producers have more support to bring the produce to the market. And another way to support the producers, so we have first time this year we have a small grant from SER to have a farm fees, Gitigaan, Wikondigan. So all the food that we have in the fees was from the Bimajid garden plot and garden. And also we purchased some of the produce from the participants, and we have indigenous chefs who came and cooked the produce for us. We have buffalo and a community member donate a moose. So we have a small feast last month outside. We have at least 100 participants who came to the feast, and we hope we have the feast next year to promote more sustainable practices and organic practices, growing local food, and to support our growers too. I think this is the last one. Okay. Yeah.
All right, I'll stop the share, and looks like we have some time for discussion and questions. Feel free to put questions in the chat if you don't want to unmute.
Jamie, this is Pamela. I'm just so impressed with what you guys got accomplished this year and how you were able to take that funding and use it to really strengthen this program that you guys have. And this is such a beautiful model for other tribal communities to be able to come together, look at how can we work together in partnership, you know, our tribal citizens, our tribal government, and you know, really work in a full partnership. And the training program, I know that Nikki, could you comment about kind of that beginning when you guys had the strategic planning and maybe some of the early goals and how this program is just like, I mean, you guys have quadrupled your participants from the first year. And, you know, and it's just only growing, and it's really impressive. Nikki, can you make a few comments?
I will comment that I didn't know that this would be that it would grow into what it grew into from the start, and there have been the growing pains. We had great ideas and no funding a lot of times. If you wanted to talk about how not to do it, we had big dreams and no junior. But we figured it out as we went along, and the planning became really important in bringing together all of those programs. When John Hendricks came in, and he gave me the list of programs that we should be contacting, I was just amazed. Not looking at our clinic staff and casino venues, there are community centers, the commodity programs, and it was looking outside for those facilitators to help put things together and remind us mostly that you need a plan and you need some money, but also that momentum of bringing the programs together. When we started meeting as the Food Sovereignty Initiative, it brought things into one place. And I think that was really helpful that we came together in that way. And having that collaboration builds capacity for the program, and just always keeping an eye on that idea about we want to feed the community and allow the community to feed themselves, not force them to do things that they don't want to do. Getting that feedback from them was important. A lot of funding sources want you to market, and not all of our producers. We have some 30 producers now in the training program, I believe. I say 30, you just up it a little bit, right? And some of them just want to trade and harvest for their families and share with others. And a lot of times USDA funding and other funding sources want us to market and build something. And it's not that same way in Indian country, and we have to kind of stand our ground, and this is the funding that we're looking for. We have the tribal liaison, Shannon Kessner from Minnesota Department of Ag in place now, and she's a Fond du Lacer, and she worked at resource management. She's familiar with our work there and quickly became familiar with the work of the other tribes, or she is now. And having those voices in these programs, getting involved, become a grant reviewer. It's all important for us to get out there, not only just in Indian country, but in these organizations and become involved. Minnesota Sarah has been great in hearing our voice and our needs, and has provided different fundings for just our programs, but also to community members. And then the Native American Egg Fund, I had to text Erica and asked if she had mentioned that. That was one of the last things that we were able to put into place, was a re-grant from the Native American Egg Fund. If you're not connected with them, send them over an email and get on their listserv. That has been really helpful. It's not a USDA federal or state program, but a Native run program. And they were able to offer us a re-grant opportunity to our community members. And then also through COVID, they offered us another chunk of change to help support. I think that's where that came from. And then actually I changed the other grant around to add more to that. So I kind of said that backwards, but due to COVID, we were able to do that re-grant. And that's the beginning of a community development financial institute. It's not something that we have talked very much at Fond du Lac about, but it's something that I would encourage others to look at as well, for their own communities. They're not in the rural areas necessarily. Pam, you could take the lead on that, promoting the CDFI and the cooperatives. We're not a cooperative yet, but we work with the local food farm out of Renshaw, Minnesota. If you want to take a look at it, that's a good cooperative. I think a cooperative model in Indian country works for us. And how exactly it works, the details are up to your community. But I'm a fan of cooperatives. So I lived in a women's cooperative since 2012. So for living and eating, it's a good model. I hope that helped.
There was one question for Jamie. Jamie or any of you three, he asked, do you have formal arrangements with your partners?
Yeah, so the only partner that we have a formal arrangement with is the Tribal College Environmental Institute. We have a memorandum of understanding because they received grant funding and we received grant funding. So just, it's kind of acts as like a lease for the land that the programming is taking part in. It's, you know, more so of saying like, here are the activities that are happening. I would say, so that's the formal arrangement that we have there. For our producers, Erica, do you want to talk about just what the producers need to sign?
Yeah. So the producers in the first meeting, first orientation meeting, they signed the program. It's just that they gonna follow the program, attend to at least 5 of the classes. And if they will have a place at the farm, please try to keep the plot with no weeds and take care of their plot. And also we have the COVID safety plan, and then we have just a waiver for that's for the tribal college. And then yeah, I also want to mention the important part. So the producer training program may start with a grant from USDA, the 25-1, and continue with USDA grant, and special emphasis. And then Nikki mentioned we also had the NAF grant that was used for small grants for the producers. And all the producers last year, they write their own mini grant, and they have different ways that they use to process food, and not just to grow vegetables, but also to maple sugar bush, maple syrup, fishing, and preserving food. Also, the producers, they process the application before the application process. They all do an application for the program. In October, we have the last meeting, so they can do an evaluation because we were very new. So the evaluation has been very helpful to try to do things better the next year. And we usually do a couple more classes in October, and the last meeting for the evaluation too.
I could just add a little bit to that, what Erica just said. What was important about that re-grant was a lot of state and federal agencies that provide funding don't necessarily provide funding for harvest activities. So those re-grants were able to support people buying nets, buying a canoe, you know, for fishing and ricing, and for updating their sugar bush and improving upon their harvests in that way. But again, it's up to us when we go for those grants to let folks know this is what harvest, this is what our food sovereignty looks like here. Thank you.
Nikki, do you want to mention about your role as the Tribal Conservation Collaboration Coordinator for those who are in Minnesota?
Yeah, so and as far as formal arrangements are concerned, we do have formal arrangements and a whole bunch of different grants with they are our partners because we are partnering with them. But my role as the Tribal Conservation collaboration coordinators to bring the tribes together and increase communication and participation in USDA NRCS programs. And one way that we're doing that is forming a tribal conservation advisory committee. If you're interested in knowing more about what we call TCACs, you can look at the Wisconsin Tribal Conservation Advisory Committee. There's one in Oklahoma, there's one in California, or you could just maybe just send me an email and I could tell you more about that program as well. And one of the other goals for that program is for my program and my work to support the food sovereignty efforts with the tribes. Sometimes that means just bringing in resources, networking opportunities, and presenting funding opportunities for the tribes. And sometimes that means helping Erika water out at the farm. Thank you.
So I did just put links to our social media sites. We have a page for our Gitigaan program and then also our 13 Moons program. If you wanted to follow us and see all the fun things that we're up to.
We want to thank you so much for joining us tonight and for sharing your story. And now we're going to have a permanent record. So there's other communities like that we're working with in Montana, Nebraska, North Dakota that are really interested. How did a community get their food sovereignty program going? And what's the, what are the things that you're offering? And, so we're really grateful that you guys were willing to share your model with us tonight and to be here. And you know how much I think about your community and working with you guys. You're just phenomenal. And it's good to see you, Nikki. And nice to meet you, Erika. So we just want to thank you for being here with us tonight. Did you have any closing comments, Justin?
It was very nice to meet all of you. Thank you so much, Jamie, Erika, and Nikki. Yeah, you all are an inspiration, and definitely look forward to getting this presentation up on YouTube, showcasing your work. Oh, and also for the participants, I did put an evaluation in the chat. So if you could please do that for us, that really helps us build our programs and put in one more time. So thank you all.
Thank you, Gigawaba Men.
Thank you.
All right. Have a great night, everyone.
Good night.
And big thank you to Pamela too. Don't want to forget that.
I don't need a thank you. That's okay. I just am so excited that we're archiving all of this.
Yep.
A dream come true. So thank you. Good night.
Good night, everyone.